Meeting to order of the Edenton Town Council for Tuesday, May 12th of 2026. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'm going to call upon Councilman Elton Bond to deliver our invocation.
Could we all bow our heads, please? Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to Thee this afternoon to say thank you. Thank you for all of your love, your mercy, and your blessing. Please help this council as it go about its duties to improve Edenton, make it clean, make it safe. Help us to be able to talk one another, with each one another, even though some things we might not agree on, but let us know we're doing it in the spirit for the town of Edenton. Let us remain friendly and working together as a whole. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Our next agenda item is our consent agenda. Does any councilman wish to pull any one of those items out of the consent agenda, or are we good with approving those or considering those as a whole? Okay, there being no objection, all in favor of approving each of the items on our consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those items are hereby passed and approved. The next agenda item is approval of our minutes from the May 14th, April 14th, April 27th, and April 27th closed meeting. Are there any requests or comments, requests for revisions or comments to those proposed minutes?
Make a motion we approve.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving each of those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, those minutes are hereby approved. Next, we move to our public comment agenda item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And when I call your name, just please come forward to the lectern and we'll be glad to hear from you. First speaker is Michael Dean. Mike?
Sorry, I only got one hearing aid working tonight, so I can only hear about half of you. Okay. So nice to see so many young folks in the crowd tonight. It's really encouraging. My name is Michael Dean. I represent the Sons of Confederate Veterans Edenton Bell Battery. I'd like to read to you a quote from Mayor High from August 2025. As we reflect on the Confederate monument debate here in Edenton, I'm reminded of an old saying: a good settlement leaves all parties somewhat dissatisfied. This speaks to the very nature of compromise. No one gets everything they want, but everyone gets something they can live with. Well, when it came to the MOU last year, the Edenton Bell Battery voted a vote of confidence in the MOU. Well, due to the inaction of county and town, we took another vote at our April 27th meeting, and it was a unanimous vote to rescind the previous narrow vote on the vote of confidence on the monument. We had some conference calls with our legal staff, with the SCV. We had an executive committee meeting that week, and we came up with some alternatives. Our attorney said to canvass our members and get as much input as we could as to what we would like to see. We canvassed the members by email, phone, text, and an informal poll of county residents. That results came up over 30-1 in favor of putting the memorial back in its original 1906 position in front of the old county courthouse on the old green. On May 4th, we made the results known, published in the Albemarle Observer, and advised the county commissioners that night. The poll question was, other than at the foot of Broad Street, where would you like a memorial to be erected? Overwhelmingly, it said the old courthouse green. What's this going to do for you? One, if we agree to something, the SCB has agreed to drop the lawsuit against the town of Edenton. Good news, right? All we got to do, come up with something we can live with. The old courthouse green seems to be the odds-on favorite. What does this do? One, it ends it's the historical place for it, the right place for it to be in 1906. Okay, it does away with some of the veterans' arguments and complaints about the memorial going to the next to the veterans' memorials down here on the hill behind the courthouse. Okay, and third, it takes the monkey off your back. The town will no longer spend thousands of dollars in legal fees fighting this in the Court of Appeals. And I can tell you that if it goes on, we will take it all the way to the state Supreme Court if necessary. So y'all be real prayerful about this. I'll be more than happy to meet with the mayor, any one of the town councilmen, or the whole group in private, and we can talk about this. And I certainly hope we can do this pretty soon. I'm tired of getting questions from people all over the county, emails, phone calls, comments, you name it, I get it. And my term ends as commander of the Bell Battery in July. Will be my two-year term ends, and I'd really like to see this put to bed before the end of my term. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next person on our list is Doug Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council for the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Doug Lane. I'm a 3-year resident of Edenton, 30-year veteran of the Coast Guard, a member of the Edenton Yacht Club, and currently as Commodore. So my comments tonight are reflecting the feelings of the Edenton Yacht Club regarding the use of the remaining harbor towns funding. The mission statement of the Edenton Yacht Club is to promote recreational boating. So in general, any harbor town project that promotes recreational boating, the Yacht Club is in favor of. One of the most visible efforts to promote recreational boating, and which I am the most proud of, is the partnership the Yacht Club has with the County Rec Department to put on the sailing programs here downtown for our citizens utilizing our fleet of 10 sunfish. These sailing opportunities consist of week-long sail camps for youth 8 to 18 years old during summer vacation, and the community sailing that we offer on Monday and Thursday evenings, open to all, no experience required. Edenton's waterfront is grossly underutilized, and the harbor town funding provides us a unique opportunity to correct several critical factors that contribute to that underutilization. They are: make the breakwater a breakwater. Townspeople commonly but incorrectly refer to the dock that creates Edenton Harbor a breakwater. It is not. If it was, all the wave energy coming from Albemarle Sound would be dissipated, and it would be flat calm inside the harbor. Experienced boaters know that the town marina does not provide a comfortable nor a safe place to moor their boat. You can make all the improvements to transient boater services and amenities, but they still won't come until we provide them a safe place to moor their boat. This is true for transient boaters as well as day boaters. Harbor Town funding has been identified to perform structural repairs to the breakwater, but I'm not confident those repairs will do what is necessary to make the breakwater a breakwater. Floating docks. Currently, there is very limited use of the downtown waterfront by day boaters. These are local citizens that live nearby, maybe out at Cape Colony or down Pembroke Creek, that might come into town by boat and grab lunch. This doesn't happen very often. I attribute the lack of day boaters due to a lack of safe dock space, where folks can safely tie up their boats and then comfortably get out of their boats onto the dock. Currently, there's only about 50 feet of pier space with adequate fendering, but that pier space still provides difficult access when the water level is low. We have provided a conceptual design of some floating dockage that would create 120 feet of safe moorage for day boaters. The conceptual design also allows for space to locate the 10 sunfish. used for community sailing, providing a far safer place to launch and recover the boats compared to Sunfish Park. However, I would not recommend installing any floating dockage inside the harbor until the breakwater problem is solved, because the floating dockage is likely to be damaged due to the excessive wave action inside the harbor. Now, rehabilitating the waterfront washrooms, it's a worthy project, and it would make Edenton a more attractive destination for transient boaters and for day boaters. Although worthy, it will have a minimal impact until the breakwater problem is resolved. Now to Martinique. The relocation and renovation of Martinique.
And Doug, if you can, I
Yes.
don't know if you heard it. We
I did not.
certainly,
Thank you for
appreciate your
a
comments.
couple extra minutes.
Yeah. See if we
The
can-
relocation and renovation of Martinique does provide a unique opportunity to address some of the objectives within the core, which is this document here, the strategic plan that you all approved in January. And I quote, "Develop a community culture in Edenton that celebrates the rich maritime heritage rooted in generations of boating, sailing, fishing, and life on the water. Although the utilization of Martinique would be a powerful tool to reach its objectives, it should not come at the expense of the other projects that I've discussed previously, for they are far more critical to improving the utilization of the waterfront." Now, membership of the Edenton Yacht Club has decades of watertime experience and expertise, and I offer that to the town and to harbor towns to make the most use of the remaining harbor town funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sally Francis Keyes.
Thank you. And I'm assuming that this is the correct time for talking about Martinique.
That you're correct in that assumption. Thank you.
My name is Sally Francis Keyes, and I live at 2333 Locust Grove Road, which is in the county. However, I spend lots of time in Edenton and have had the opportunity to spend many years telling Edenton stories to visitors, our tourists, our residents, to children, and to have a piece of the county here in Edenton will make telling the complete story even more compelling. And the Barker House has a very compelling story, and I was so delighted to see that the state dignitaries acknowledged the Penelope Barker Edenton Tea Party today. And then with the Cupola House just there, then having Martinique, which represents the history of the county. It was on the first land grant and was there for centuries. And that helps bring together the county and the town and telling the story all together. So I encourage you to support moving Martinique into Edenton in its proposed spot, where it will be there for everyone to visit and see. And plus, when we first came, we were sailors. My husband was a sailor, I was the cook. And we know from going up and down the intercoastal in South Carolina, North Carolina, the Chesapeake, that the places that have wonderful amenities for overnight stays are the ones that get your business. So we would also encourage Martinique's use to support the water efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Next, we have Anna O'Neill. Anna?
Bonner O'Neill, 305 North Broad Street. I've been a resident of Edenton for 21 years now. Restored a house most of those 21 years, so I do know what some of that's all about. I'm encouraging you to approve moving Martinique here and utilizing the funds left over from the Harbor Cruise project. I think it's a wonderful, worthy project. Being president of the Cupola House Association for the last 4 years and being involved in that association for all of 21 years that I've lived here, I have to say that one of the concerns I heard last night was that 17 years ago, Martinique was moved to its temporary space, and people were concerned about 17 years and it being in cribbing. I have to tell you, as president of the Pupil House Association, it took us 106 years to bring the woodwork back. And it's a testament right now to see what's going on there and how excited people from all over the state of North Carolina and places outside of the U.S. being so excited about what we're doing here. People that have come here and visited the Pupil House from Williamsburg, which we all know about, are salivating when they come here because we have the original. We don't have to replicate it. We have a great opportunity to have another original right downtown, period appropriate, and I'm wholeheartedly endorsing that decision to move it here if that comes to pass. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit jealous of you guys having the opportunity to make this decision. I wish I'd been around in 1918 to save the Pupil House. You guys have another opportunity to save Martinique. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list, Marilyn Rutland.
Hi there, I'm Marilyn Rutland, 203 East King Street. We weren't from here originally. We've been here for 10 years. We are from away. We have no people here. But you all still have embraced us. Before we moved here, Bruce and I came from a city and a town where history started in 1940, maybe, if you were lucky, and ripping things down and building up new glass things was what the norm was. Suddenly being engaged so totally in a place where history is so important is simply overwhelming. We would go to Williamsburg and just our jaws would drop. And we live in a place that is so much more alive than that and is just as rich in history. It seems that we also are blessed with people who are fearless and are ready to engage and champion efforts to do what may seem impossible, but is very doable if you just put your heart in it. We are in the middle, it seems, of having all the stars aligned. We have been given a beautiful building, it will be beautiful, and we have money to restore it, and we have a possible place to put it where it actually will be put to use on a daily basis for people who live in this town. I hope you all are as excited about this as we are, and will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Russ Corker.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, excuse me, Russ Corker, 115 West King Street, also a director of the Cupola House. There are many beautiful small towns in the South, but what makes Edenton so special is our commitment to preservation. It was 1918 when a group of men in Edenton came together to save the Cupola House from absolute destruction. It is now the most studied building in all of North Carolina in terms of a colonial structure. You have the opportunity to continue that long tradition. Sambo Dixon, as you know, has been spearheading many preservation projects. He was instrumental in saving Mill Village, which would have clearly been bulldozed over for modern construction. We now know that to be a crown jewel. Instrumental in Katie's Church, instrumental in Hayes. These are the things that make Edenton very, very special. I was here last night to hear some of the comments, and there's concern about the children in the park. I have a different perspective on that. How special is that for a child to look over at a historic structure, the Barker House, Martinique, and ask their parents, what is this? And perhaps that can spark an interest in historic preservation, the way everyone in this room reveres preservation. So I wholeheartedly support this project. I would hate to see this money go up to Elizabeth City. It is going to be fully funded. I just hope our council adds another crown jewel to the Barker House, the Cupola House, and now Martinique. This will just be a historic seaport. So thank you very much for your attention.
Next, David Littman. David?
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is David Levin. Happy to have the opportunity to talk with you about something I previously talked about with the council, and that's access for people with disabilities. I spoke to the council a couple of years ago and reached out to many of the leaders here, and have to admit that the response I received was a little bit disappointing, or actually a lack of response. And so I really want to take an opportunity to try to address that again, especially as the fire chief recently retired, and he had been assigned as the ADA coordinator for the town. So I think now is an opportunity to really address this again. So one of the reasons I'm here is talking about how we determine access for people with disabilities and engaging that person with a disability in that conversation. So for example, myself wanted to be able to attend these meetings, and it was decided for me, from a hearing able-bodied person, what access would look like for me. Instead of engaging me in that conversation, that decision was made for me. And I think it's important when talking about the ADA, accommodating people with disabilities, that you engage them in that conversation. So with the fire chief now leaving, I have some questions. I don't expect you to answer those questions right now, but for example, who is the current ADA coordinator for the town? If the fire chief's left, who is now assuming that responsibility? When I looked at the job description for the fire chief, there's no mention about being ADA coordinator. Okay? So sometimes the feeling is it's an add-on to their already responsibilities without really understanding the heart of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. So if the fire chief will continue to be the ADA coordinator, what part of their job really focuses on being ADA coordinator? How do they address that? Are they just looking at fire codes, or are they really addressing access for people with disabilities? If the fire chief is not going to have that responsibility, who will be the permanent ADA coordinator for the town of Edenton? My feeling is, based on conversations I've had with people, is it needs to be standalone position. It can't just be thrown off on somebody as an add-on to their main job. To really address access for people in this town, that position needs to be standing alone. It allows us to engage with the community on what access means to them. Talking with the community. People who have disabilities, whether they have hearing loss, whether you're using a cane, whether they have mobility issues, whether you're using hearing aid, what does access mean to you? Okay? Engage with local businesses. Maybe you have a hardware store here, and you have people with disabilities that come into your store. How do you make sure your services are accessible to them and you feel comfortable in interacting with them? Okay? Providing training to town employees. Every town employee will have some interaction for people with disabilities, helping them understand the laws and feeling comfortable engaging with people with disabilities.
And Mr. Lippman, how close are you to the end of your comments?
Close.
Okay.
I don't think it's been 3 minutes yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then ensuring that the town is compliant with the ADA. There are some changes that are coming with the ADA. For example, Title II Web and Mobile App Accessibility Rule for this town is to be due by April 2028. How is the town addressing that? So my point is, I think it's important that there be a standalone position for ADA coordinator, and we'd love to see you guys address that and try to answer some of the questions I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I know we normally don't address that, but I know this is something that Mr. David has been asking for a while. Have you made any strides in making our meetings accessible for or ADA compliant?
I think there's multiple buckets. to put ADA accessibility in. There's a clear difference between crossing the street and coming to this meeting, what those needs are. I know that Wayne and CJ have been working very hard and heavy for any of our walking areas to make sure that our sidewalks are up to the standard, handicap parking spaces, for anything existing. Anything that's new, we would address those during TRC meetings with building inspectors and all of the town departments. One of the things that we had started, if you look up on the screen, you'll see the text from tonight's meeting as we talked, it's being shared. That was one of the first steps. We did run into some struggles on trying to find translators for this area that could either sign or speak different languages. And this is new for us. It was one of the new things, particularly for meetings that our initial PIO had started on. And we kind of ran into a roadblock on really trying to find anyone in this community that could help with signs. So the next best option we were able to do was to try to add the text. Any improvements that we make, we try to make sure that we've got widths, angles, and things of that nature to account for all ADA standards. So it's kind of a puzzle piece on which bucket we're starting with.
That's something that we've made
Yes.
improvements on, right?
Yes, sir. And David, the new fire chief will continue that as the safety coordinator for the town. And we have gotten really close to finalizing that. And there will be a transition period between the existing chief and the new chief to make sure they understand those responsibilities as the safety coordinator.
Okay, next, Wayne Caskey. Wayne? Thank you for Gary.
Wayne Caskey, 1003 North Oakland Street in Edenton. Mayor, council members, I'm going to continue with my open-ended dialogue from the last meeting I was at. We left off with the progressive socialism being the forerunner of a Marxist, fascist state. Following that, we talked about following money. Remember that Hitler was a professed, identified as a Christian socialist. And we saw what happened as a result of that. Southern Poverty Law Center indicted since then for giving money to the KKK and white supremacist groups so they would cause trouble in rallies in order to justify the SPLC political objectives to fight against those very organizations. What a diabolical plot. I kind of chuckled at it because I had done an investigation into BLM and they had the same diabolical plot. BLM is still currently being investigated for their money schemes, and one of those was a large portion of their money was raised, went to personal use, and went to Antifa to help burn down the very communities that they claim to represent. When I first posted a sign outside this council building on January the 11th, 2025, the chief at that time, Chief LaFone, will remember it, as his phone immediately lit up. He came and talked with me, and we had a cordial discussion about it. What did that sign say that would cause such a disturbance? Gettysburg is coming. Just in the last couple of weeks, it was reported on one of the networks, we are in our Gettysburg moment right now, and we are battling for the future of America. Recently, 2 North Carolina representatives have left the Democratic Party because it was money was given to them by their party to progressive candidates in order to defeat them. Just this week, Barney Frank and others slammed his party along with other people for the progressive socialists taking over. Do we even need to talk about Seawall and others having to resign because of their actions and behavior. All this time, they have been accusing others and at the same time committing the very same act. Let's not forget Hunter Biden. Others are also experiencing their own share of woes as some of their representatives are being exposed. Just this past week in Indiana, 5 Republican incumbent rhinos were defeated and will be replaced. Many individuals will still keep their heads buried in the sand and keep going the same political way because they just refuse to believe what is right in front of them and continue believing the lies that are being purported. Even the mayor of Charlotte has resigned effective June this year. Just this week in California, another mayor has resigned because they found to be an agent of China. How do we as a people combat such corruption in politics? Only God can save America, but the ecclesia will have to do their part. And I'll leave this open-ended and let us know how next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaston. Next, Steve Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the council. My name is Stephen Hudson. I'm a resident of 105 West Church Street. My wife and I are very pleased to make Edenton our home. And it was the beauty of all the preserved places and the friendliness of all the people that really brought us here. I just want to say that I'm also a member of the Edenton Yacht Club. I want to echo the comments of our Commodore Lane. I think that the priority should be making sure that we're creating a safe and welcoming town harbor before we start spending all of our money on just a shoreside facility. Not opposed to Martinique coming in. I think, but I agree with Commodore Lane on what the priority should be. We actually brought our boat down from Maine in the winter of 2024 and happened to be in here during not even a big storm, but just a good sized storm. We were in the town harbor. It was a scary thing. And so there's a reason why a lot of boaters will skip us, unfortunately, as they transit the intercoastal waterway. I've done it several times now, and actually tried to come into Edenton on one of my last times through, but we weren't able to get in because it was COVID at the time. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to accommodate both items, which is the priority for the town harbor. The town harbor itself has a welcoming dockage place for boaters, but also Martinique. But we would ask the council, we're, to be honest, have not been following closely the Martinique project. Like to understand what kind of contingency is built into the budget for the restoration, so that we make sure that we're able to complete it in a timely manner with the monies that we think we'll have. But also beyond that, to publicly discuss the O&M budget, because unlike many of the other wonderful places that we've preserved here, this is at least one that will be 100%, I think, of the responsibility of the town to operate and maintain safely. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stuart Proctor. Stuart still here?
Still here.
Not going anywhere.
Mayor, council, thank you for having me. My name is Stuart Proctor. I actually live in the county as well, 212 Emperor Landing Road, but my family owns Byram Hardware on 314 South Broad Street. Myself and my sister are the 4th generation of that family business. And I would like to encourage the town council to remind themselves that in 1952, my grandfather, along with other business leaders, as he served on the town council, moved a dilapidated, ugly, worn out, no good for nothing, termite infested building 2 blocks down the street, across the street from here, the Barker House. I encourage all of you to take a look at how hideous that building was when it got moved and how beautiful it is now. I would also encourage the town council to take a look at the history books and see that that house, as we see it,
is not how it looked when Penelope Barker lived there, but it had 3 other additions, yet we love it still. The town has an opportunity to move forward with a project that will be a money pit. But I encourage y'all to look forward to the opportunities that await us when we dream big and we make things happen. Northeast North Carolina is a place with not a whole lot of nothing. You go across the river, you go up the river, you go across the sound, and there's a whole lot of nothing because people fail to dream and they're more worried about the short-term costs than the long-term gain. So I think y'all have a good funding plan for this project, but I encourage y'all to move forward in Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Next, Chris Bean.
I am Chris Bean. I live at 104 West King Street. I'm here really in 2 capacities. One is that I'm the chairman of the Edenton Historical Commission, and the other I'm here as an individual citizen of Edenton of 48 years. I cast my lot 48 years ago with this town, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful life. And part of that is because Edenton may be the most unique place in the state of North Carolina. It is the jewel in the crown of North Carolina, of small towns. And why is that? And that is because of what Vanna has referred to, Stuart has referred to. It's the people, and it has been the government of the town of Edenton who have championed these projects. The Cupola House, the Katie's Church, the Barker House, that makes Edenton this wonderful, unique place to live and to visit. You're presented, I think, with the most phenomenal opportunity in your decision to do something that not only benefits life in Edenton, as you've heard all of the people who are voters speak, that benefits the history. And the whole purpose of the Historical Commission is to promote and protect the beauty and the history of Chowan County. And that's exactly what this does. By moving Martinique here, you're preserving the only surviving 18th century building from northern Chowan County and using it for a wonderful purpose that creates a beautiful vista down Broad Street to the water. And as I'm sure Corey and others will go into, provides parking, more safety. It is just almost unbelievable that this opportunity could arise. And as the chairman and as a citizen, I encourage y'all to move forward in every respect.
Thank you, Judge Bean. Next, we have John Moorhead.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I am John Moorhead of 112 East Queen Street. I've calculated it was actually 49 and a half years ago when I finished school and was looking for the town in Eastern Virginia or East Carolina that I thought might last the longest without getting ruined. And I picked Edenton. And I have enjoyed being one of many people who have helped with all sorts of projects here. As Chris mentioned, the Edenton Historical Commission, its legislative charter actually charges the commission with responsibility for protecting not only Edenton but the rest of Chowan County. Because the reality is in Chowan County that the great concentration of people and energy for preservation is in Edenton. And as Chris alluded to, of the historically most prominent farms and establishments in the north end of Chowan County, The two that recently have had something left have been Bandon Plantation, where English Fletcher lived, and immediately next door to it, both of them backing up to Indian Creek, Martinique. And just as we, after English Fletcher's Bandon Manor House burned down when she was still living there, although she escaped, we have moved. That is where the outbuildings at the Iredell House, the school, the kitchen, the smokehouse, and the dairy, all of those are from Bandon. And so that part of Chowan County has been preserved there at the Iredell House, and makes a huge difference. Those outbuildings are even more interesting than the house itself. The other thing that's left up there is Martinique, which is important in such a variety of ways, all the way from Alan Parker, who was the young man who grew up as a slave there, and eventually his book called Recollection of Slavery Times was published in Massachusetts in 1895, and you can read it online, and it's been reproduced. He grew up on that farm, all the way from him up to the Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. We all know that Chowan County has had one member in its entire history on the United States Supreme Court, which of course is James Iredell. We've had only one person from Chowan County on the North Carolina Supreme Court, and he, unlike James Iredell, was also the Chief Justice, and that's John Wallace Windber. Martinique was first bought in 1752 by John Wallace. Then one of his daughters married a Parker, where Alan Parker came from, and one of the Parkers married a Windber, which is the family that it is now. So anyway, this, I think there could not, as Chris said also, there could not be a better opportunity for us to preserve the last of the great things that's left in the north end of the county than this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John. Next speaker, Flora Hall Davis.
Thank you. I'm Flora Hall Davis. I'm from Danville County, 234 Greenfield Road. And I am speaking in favor of the Martinique project. It seems to be a habit in the last 2 days. And what I would like to say today, to add to what was said yesterday, which I think just is such a beautiful full circle picture, and it will build on what Sally Francis and Vonna spoke about the Cupola House and county and town. So the Cupola House in 1918 created the Cupola House Association in an effort for preservation. And one of the founding members of that association was William Hutchins Winburn, and he lived at Martinique. And what a beautiful full circle to have his home here on Broad Street, neighboring the Cupola House. And I think it's a lovely way to honor his heritage and his passion of preservation. And Edenton is definitely a place that currently has vision where the people will not perish so long as we continue with great visionaries, and preservation is something Edenton does well, and so I encourage you all to proceed on with the Martinique project. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment, and I'd like to thank, as I always do, everyone for taking time and showing us that you care and coming before us tonight so we could hear your thoughts on all of these matters. We next move to the special presentations portion of our agenda. As is our custom, we invite annually our nonprofit partners to come before us and just give us an annual update. And tonight I am pleased to introduce Brooke Rich. Brooke is the Executive Director of the Edenton Chowan Education Foundation, and she is here to let us know about the overall impact of her organization and all the good things they've been doing in support of education here in our county. So Brooke, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right, thank you for having me tonight. You've heard a lot of talk tonight so far about historic preservation and history, and tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about the future. The future of Chowan County are our children. So, and our main goal of the Education Foundation is to support those students. I also want to start by saying thank you for entrusting us with the opportunity to support our schools in Chowan County. And I hope that we have been good stewards of that money. So our foundation is structured similar to most nonprofits, the executive director, executive board, foundation board, and we have subcommittees. Our grants committee is probably the committee that gets the most work. Every grant or field trip submission that comes in goes to our grants committee. We have 6 people on that team, and we deliberate and make sure that this is appropriate use of that funding. And then it's really geared toward improving education in our students or for our staff members. What's the mission of the foundation? Our main mission is to raise awareness of educational needs in Chowan County schools and to garner support for our teachers and students through financial means. And the short version is to support education in Chowan County, and this comes in a variety of ways. So what do we do? How do we do that? How do we achieve our mission? We really, we are the bridge for resources in our community. So we have donations from town council, we can collect donations from other businesses, community members, churches. We also, depending on what the needs are, we collect specific items. This picture right here you can see is from our Back to School Bash, which we host downtown here at the waterfront to kick off the school year. We ordered book bags, pencils, markers, all the things that our students need to start the school year successfully. Also, we work very closely with the Edenton Chowan Public School System. I meet with Miss Ward often, I attend the principal meetings often, and so I volunteer at the schools quite frequently. And so I'm in there and I hear what their needs are, and when a need arises, we try to figure out a solution to that. I have teachers that stop me in the hallway and say, hey, Brooke, what do you think about this? I really want to do this for my students. And most of the time, we can help with that. And if we can't, I'll reach out to members in the community and we try to find a solution to support those missions. Within the foundation, we have 3 main areas of implementations. We have mini grants, which sometimes are many and sometimes they're not so many. We support field trips and we also support scholarships for our high school seniors. Are there mini grants? I always love days where I get to take those checks to the schools. I started calling them yes days this year. It brings me satisfaction and obviously the staff when I can say yes to their requests. And I say that yes on behalf of our organization. So, the first school that I want to talk about is White Oak Elementary School. That's our pre-K through 2nd grade school within the public school system. You can see down here this banner on the bottom was put up at the playground. Our nonverbal students use this to communicate with their teachers and with fellow students. There's a lot of this material within the classroom and within the cafeteria, but they really were looking for a way for these students to communicate on the playground. So one of our speech therapists reached out and wanted to place an order for this item, so we were able to support that. The other thing that you see, Miss Blanca, our music teacher, she received a donation of ukuleles to use for her kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade students, and she didn't have anywhere to store them. So she actually teamed up with a carpentry teacher at the middle school, and the middle schoolers developed this filing system, and we provided the financial means to purchase the materials. So I love that partnership. Our next school is D.F. Walker. This is grades 3 through 5. A few things we were able to provide at that school was a 5th grade field trip to Colonial Williamsburg. As a 5th grade parent, I got to attend that day. And, you know, walking around with those students, I can't tell you how many times they were like, oh man, we learned about this in class. Or some of the actors would ask them questions and they would know the answers. And to see the pride and joy on their face and experience that was just really a full circle moment. And we think that Colonial Williamsburg truly is not that far from Edenton, but 90% of these students would never get that experience. And this teacher is a new teacher to the community, or to our system. And I was so proud that she was thinking out of the box and trying to create another experience for her students. We also were able to purchase some social studies magazines. This gives the students a different medium of learning outside of like their textbooks or their Chromebooks, and they really love it, and it's geared towards a way in which kind of makes learning fun. The next school that I'd like to talk about is our Chowan Middle School, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This year at this school, Principal Lopez came up with a great idea, and she hosted 4 STEM days, which is, the day was structured very different than a traditional day. The students didn't attend classes, and each day was focused on a STEM a subject. And so we provided funding for the agricultural day and the day that was aerospace. It's a problem-solving day, and the students get to do hands-on activities. They had to create these like potting soils with, you know, a water bottle and a seed and something else to seed. But they have to figure out how to create it. And it just really is a great way to engage with middle schoolers. And the other one at the top, they were working on paper airplanes and seeing how fast they could go, or how far they could go, I should say. A few field trips that we were able to sponsor at the middle school. The another yes day with the kids in the red shirt, that's the FCCLA group. They competed at state levels, and all the students that placed first and second in state were able to compete at the national level. They raised a lot of funds on their own. They didn't come to us expecting the full amount. We were just able to fill that bucket. They filled it about 3/4 of the way of what they needed, and then we were able to complete the remaining so that those students can go have that. And since it's in Washington, D.C. this year, on their off time, they're going to go tour a lot of the museums and monuments. The 8th graders are taking a class field trip in the next week. The Spanish 1 class, they learn all about Spanish history and the language, and so at the end of their course, they get to go to a local Mexican restaurant. They have to order their food in Spanish, interact with the hostess, and I think it's a great way to reward those students for their hard work. We also were able to support a group of middle schoolers who got to tour East Carolina. So they got a tour of the campus, they got to eat in the dining hall. And I think in middle school, it's a great way for those students to be exposed to college and see what's on the horizon. They had a great time that day. And moving on to the high school, the new high school is fabulous. As you can see up on the top right corner, the kitchen, that's actually in the life skills classroom. This is a group of students who have a different means of learning, and they're really just teaching those students basic life skills. The school was able to purchase the curriculum that they needed for those students, but they didn't have any money left in their budget for supplies, and they do lots of cooking, and there's actually a washing machine and dryer, they get to wash their clothes. So we were able to provide that teacher with the supplies for her to teach those students. You can see in the bottom right, the 2 mixing bowls, they were working on making some cookies and different things like that. The bottom left and middle, those are some supplies from our science department. We ordered new Bunsen burners and those things. What they're actually learning right there is the basic chemistry of a firework. So it's shifting electrons, you know, back and forth, which will be fun on July 4th when we have our fireworks, and those students are saying, hey, I know how that actually happens. We had another interesting situation this year where the high school usually provides a nursing fundamentals class in the spring, but they were unable to provide that class for unknown reasons. And so the teacher or the coordinator reached out. She said, hey, these students can take it at COA, but there's a lot more requirements, and some of our students can't afford that. Could you help out? So for all the students that wanted to attend, I think it was 10 students, we were able to cover those fees and make that a reality for those students, which is great. They actually get their CNA at the end of that program. We also our board members worked together to have a resume builder and interview session at the high school. Another yes day, that's with Erica Alexander. She's a bookkeeper at the high school, and she loves to see me walk through the door. The other 2 pictures are from some students who competed at a math competition at East Elizabeth City State University. and a few other field trips, the FCCLA National Convention for the high school groups as well. We also, another school in our county is Oak Grove Christian Academy, and this year they reached out and they wanted to take some of their 6th through 10th graders to Washington, D.C. It was a part of their curriculum as well. They were studying ancient history and aerospace. They fundraised as well, and we helped meet, we matched what they raised. They also wanted to purchase some new dictionaries and thesauruses for their classrooms. They actually don't have any digital materials there. So one thing that we had talked about with using this money is teacher retention in Chowan County. And if you'll see, one area that I thought this was applicable was in the middle is Mr. Jeremiah Brown, and he is the music teacher at Chowan Middle School, and he's very motivated, and he really loves what he does. And last year we were able to send him to Western Carolina University for the music symposium. And he sent me an email about how fabulous it was, and he really loved it, and he came back motivated. And this past fall, or actually early in January, I said, "Hey, Mr. Brown, is there anything you need?" He's like, "I'd really love to go to that symposium again." He said, "It's different every year. It's not the same thing. They're getting this like world-renowned person." And I said, "Well, why don't you submit a grant?" And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, we would love for you to do that." So anyways, he's going back again this summer, and he's very excited. You can see on the right picture, he brought some students to the 5th graders who are potentially going to be band members next year. So he's really trying to grow that program, which then funnels into high school music, and it's all connected. On the left, you just see a laptop, but we had a new teacher to our system who his old district had this way that his laptop could communicate to the screen, and they didn't have the money to purchase that here, so we were able to purchase that. So imagine, going to a new district and you ask for this device and you're able to get that device, and he was very appreciative. It really cuts down on his time having to go back and forth to devices throughout the math class. Just another element that we do are scholarships. We're actually right in the middle of scholarship season right now. We are awarding $26,000 to graduating seniors. That money is all money that we handle for other entities. So it's not money that we're making on the bank. It's in memory of a lot of folks, but that is one thing that we do for our community members. This is from last year. We're getting ready to host that on Tuesday night. So all in all, what's the impact? We had 400 students experience an extra field trip. So this is on top of what the kids are already experiencing. 350 students attended every STEM day at the middle school, and I was talking to Ms. Lopez about that, and she said one of the great things that they noticed was that the attendance, these are on half days, the attendance went from 70% to 95%. So you're retaining those students because you're providing them with an alternate day of learning. I love that statistic. We have students from the science department, middle school program. Two of my most things that I work hard to achieve is reduced teacher out-of-pocket spending. So one of my goals is for our teachers to not really have to spend anything out of their pocket. They're purchasing supplies constantly all year, and I like when they come to us and ask for those items. And everything that is purchased or approved has also been approved by the principal. So they're not purchasing things that are that don't apply to the curriculum. And just improving the staff morale, feelings, and support. I get it all the time. Thank you for what you do, and that's what we can give back to our teachers, right, and our staff. It's just feeling that we're behind them and we're cheering them on and we're there for them. One other thing that we're doing within the foundation is we sold commemorative bricks that were placed around the flagpole at the high school, and this money goes towards our operating budget. And the money that the town of Edenton gives to us, 100% of that funding goes back out to the schools. So none of that money is used towards our operating budget. So we're trying to raise money. So if anybody wants to purchase a brick, it's not too late. See me after the meeting. And I'll just end with an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So thank you. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
What can we do as citizens to improve teacher morale? Go out there and help read for the children.
Absolutely. So you can volunteer. I know our lower schools are always looking for they call them cubby buddies or mentors. That could be, you can meet with a student once a month. You can meet with them twice a year. whatever you want to do. We could reach out to the principals and see what the needs are. Sometimes they're very specific and sometimes they're general. Funding is always great, you know, I think we hear all the time with budget cuts. We're anticipating more budget cuts within the system. I'm meeting with Ms. Ward mid-June to talk about what next year's gonna look like, so, financial support is always great as well. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Brooke. Mayor High and I were talking about where this funding goes, and you did a great job explaining that to us and everybody else here. So thank you for your work. Keep it up.
Our next special presentation is a presentation on the Harbortown Maritime Center. And we have with us tonight, and it feels like he's been spending a lot of time in this building, I think probably Chris Morris, A.R. Cheston. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. Go right home. Good evening, council. I appreciate your time this evening, allowing me to speak. And I know we're here to discuss the Martinique this evening, and I want to kind of dive into the site plan that I think is part of your packet this evening. So I'll be referring to it often. But before I jump into that, and maybe as William is setting this up, I thought it would be appropriate to kind of give the council an update on where we're at with all the projects that Harbor Towns was approved to move forward with last time we were here. I think that was back in February. Can I turn this? Because I'm going to refer to it quite often here in a moment.
Yeah, that would be fine. It would be helpful here.
Maybe it won't fall off. Let me give him a quick moment of assistance. A quick rundown. We were approved to move forward with several projects back in February. I'll remind the council that the first project that we addressed right out the gate was the fuel service that was put in at Edenton Marina. That was completed months ago now. Also, we mentioned the breakwater earlier. That is ongoing now as well. I think right after that meeting in February, we went ahead and moved forward with that contract. We've had divers in the water here to examine the structure just to make sure that there's no additional structural issues that we need to address. I'm glad to report that there were none. We found 12 concrete piles that were cracked, which is exactly what we had anticipated. So we're in the process of moving forward with the repair now. Materials have been ordered. They should be in literally any day now. And while contracting is going to be doing the actual work, and in a conversation with him earlier yesterday, I think right now the plan is to start that work the week of June the 1st. And we had in mind Memorial Day holiday in there. We didn't know if the town had any activities planned. Certainly it would be a heavier pedestrian weekend, maybe. We didn't want to encumber that anyway. So the plan right now, unless we're told otherwise, is to start June 1st. There'll be some coordination needed between the town and A.R. Cheston. There will be some laydown area that will be required in front of the Barker House for material storage and that sort of thing. And certainly work it out between the town and ourselves. We were also asked to move forward with the photometric study along the walkways between the parking lot in front of the Barker House and all the way over to the Herringbone Restaurant. There's a couple of sidewalks here in between. We moved forward with that photometric study. It's pretty much complete now. It's been under review by the town. We've got comments back. We're addressing them now. It's just about 100% complete. And what that does, it tells you where to best place the light poles along those walkways so that you get optimum foot candle or lighting across the pathway there. Another project we were asked to move forward with is a restroom alteration project that was mentioned earlier. What that basically entails is replacing all the fixtures and finishes inside each of those restrooms and shower rooms. All the fixtures will be replaced, wall coverings, floor coverings, be repainted. This is all interior work, nothing on the exterior per se. There'll also be a bit of sheetrock repair in the office space as well. That actually bid out last week. We've got numbers in. Corey and I both been going through the numbers to ensure that that stays within budget. And I think we're very close to having that under contract. Also, the Barker House renovation was approved, and we've been working with them. We've had the engineering team come out, put together electrical and mechanical plans. That's the focus of a lot of that renovation work there. In addition to some exterior repairs, shutter repairs. We are also some of the house fascias in need of repair to prevent bird intrusion, those sort of things. That actually bid out this afternoon, and I haven't had time to go through numbers yet. We will in the coming days. And we'll work with the Barker House and the town to ensure that that also stays within the budget we were allotted. All that has been happening within the last 3 months or less. And then a couple, maybe a week or so after that last meeting is when the Martinique House was introduced. And that's what we want to focus on now. If there's any questions on any of those various projects, I'll be glad to address.
Any questions at this time? Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay, very good. So we'll move on to the Martinique. What we have up here on the board is what I believe you've got in your packet. And I want to kind of thoroughly address the layout of the house. And I was here last night and I heard several concerns, and I want to try to address most, if not all those, when I'm able to. So as you could imagine, a lot would go into moving this house into downtown Eden. One of the concerns that I heard last night was about the view, rightfully so. I'm going to use my pointer, hopefully everybody can see this. But I want to ensure that the front of this house is going to line up exactly with the front of this building we're in. So it's going to kind of tuck into the corner. It's not going to interrupt the view plane of the street as you're coming down the road. You're not going to see this house. If you look out the window here, you might see it. As you're coming down the road, it's not really going to impact your view. There'll be a 10-foot addition on the back of the house.
Chris, can you speak a little about it?
A one-story porch on the front of the house, within about 10 feet off the front of the house. I want to come right down the street and start as you're coming down the street here. The first impact will be the curb here that exists. We intend to pull that curb back several feet. What that does is open up this travel path. You'll come down the street and take a right if you choose. Again, really doesn't impact your path of travel. As you come down the street, you could turn left, just as you do now, and loop back. You could also turn right and come towards the playground. There was a comment or two about the playground use, also about the parking in front of the playground. I can tell you with this layout, that parking will not be impacted. It is our intent to replace it so that this whole entire site looks brand new when we're finished with new asphalt, etc.
Chris, could you put the microphone just a little closer to your mouth? It's kind of hard to hear you.
I feel like I'm screaming.
No, not at all.
So back to the parking, as you come around the playground area, This will be new asphalt, new striping, but the parking count here and the layout as it exists now will not be impacted. It'll be the same as what you have now. The playground itself, I heard comments about the playground. The playground will not be impacted. It's not in the scope of this project. As you continue around the Martinique, future Martinique, there will be new parking here adjoining the sidewalk that exists. And I'll address one comment about parking. There was a comment about concerns about losing parking spaces. There's a net zero loss here on parking. There'll be as many parking spaces afterward as there exists now, except the travel flow around will be greatly improved. So all this parking here along the sidewalk will be new. Obviously this new drive aisle here is new, a new connection. The brickwork that exists here, the cannons, that will have to be relocated. That's located approximately where this drive-through is. So there'll be interconnectivity here with the drive aisle from the Barker House. As you see, parking here, perpendicular parking in front of where the Martinique would be, and between the Barker House. This is the Barker House for reference. This is new parking. In fact, I think I'm going to squeeze another parking space in here from this layout. But again, the intent is not to impact the number of parking spaces that exist now, and I think we can achieve that. There's been comments about the trees. I think I learned this through the process. I thought those trees were terribly old. I think they're from the 1980s. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. These trees in the front may be impacted by this move. They may end up going away. That's kind of up in the air right now, but they may go away. If they do, that gives us the opportunity to properly frame the new building or building with new trees of your selection. There'll be one tree here that absolutely will stay. It's located in the corner. There's a tree that exists in this corner that will certainly be removed. There may be a third tree, I think, in line with these two that may be removed. But the trees will be impacted by this. Continuing around, there'll be new sidewalk here, brick sidewalk. This plan holds, brick paver sidewalk. There'll also be a dedicated parking spot here for the trolley. I think it parks here kind of now, but now it'll be a dedicated spot for it. You'll see here on the sidewalk layout, there's a place here for benches where you might wait for the trolley. There's also opportunity up on the front porch. This will be a pretty pronounced front porch here. Could be great for trolley passengers as they wait. I think overall, getting the concept of what we're trying to do here, I think this is minimal of an impact to this area as it could possibly be. Traffic is going to flow better. You have more single parking spaces. You add to the integrity of your town with the addition of the Martinique. Are there any questions about the site plan?
I've got one, Chris.
Sure.
The parking spots y'all intend to put in will be updated to meet today's standards, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it should be more accessible, better parking spots.
Yes, it will improve what's here. What we have shown here, I believe, is 9 foot wide by 18 feet deep.
Chris, today I had the head of the State Main Street, and we got in her car, and she was parked, I guess she had backed in this way on the second road, and she pulled out, and she went that way towards the water. She hung a right, and then somebody else came around and hung a left, and it was,
It happens all the time.
yeah, and so it's just, I think that we've all seen from trying to park there, you can't park you can't park Mayor High can't park his vehicle anywhere.
It's really not made for modern day vehicles.
And the thing that I don't like about that parking lot is you have people backing up in the same direction and you have children running around it. And the thing that I think is so much better about this is that it does away with all that backing up.
It does.
And it'd be so much safer for children.
Yes. Again, this is all one way around.
And on the trees, it's been my understanding, John Moorhead is here, but these trees have they're sick. And they've been on our watch list. And we're gonna try to keep the healthiest ones there are, but some of them, no matter what, are they're just unhealthy.
And Councilman Dixon, over the years I've been with the town, as way back, when I first started in 2017, as the Public Works Director, I remember being a part of the tree committee group, and we've had arborists look at those, and they are in decline, and we have wished and hoped and been very optimistic to try to de-limb and extend and do things to really try to prevent that. But ultimately, yes, they are in decline, and yeah, I think replacement is more than likely the right option to align the site versus fitting a house to trees that were there prior to the hunt.
And I've heard people talk about the view positively, and two things they love seeing as they're traveling south on Broad Street. They love seeing the water, and they love seeing that one tree that's almost centered in Broad Street as you're looking down. As I understand it, nothing is going to block that view of the water, and also that one tree that I'm speaking of is one of the ones we know for sure is going to remain. Is that correct?
The tree you're speaking of is the one that would absolutely be kept. Is in this school.
It's probably the most well
healthy.
And I mean, I think that people thought that this thing was like going in the middle of the street. I mean, I've got a lot of, I was in the drugstore today, and people were asking me all, and so the fact that it's tucked back, it really frames a vista, just like the green, any kind of classical vista has things that, and Chris Bean talked about that, leads your eye down to the water, and that's what this will do.
Yes, it would not, it really would not impede your view at all.
And it's also, I don't know what that meter is going to speak, but it's about a lot lower and smaller than the bark house. It's going to sit 4 feet off the ground instead of 5.5, and it's going to be about 10 plus feet lower than the bark house, is what I understand.
That is correct, that's my understanding as well.
Is flooding a concern with that? Flooding, is that a concern with it?
No, it's where it needs to be. We met with the zoning folks and.
How far off the ground will it be?
4 feet.
It will be about 4 feet.
So just to provide some of the clarity for the board, I wanted Chris to try to go over the site and handle any technical questions we have. But I do have Chris Bean here from the Historic Commission, as well as Andrew Omi, that will be helping with part of the renovation, as well as Joe Walker is here when we get to the action item to really share more information from each of those partners.
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
So, out of these 5 things that we already approved, are we taking anything out of there to do this project?
So there were initial projects that were there that were removed, one being the gazebo. I mean, that was one of the easiest things. We really started to look at the remaining projects and what was necessary to make improvements we would not see. If you remember, the original idea was around $1.4 million for a new 2-story structure that's basically a duplicate with a second story of what we had. Chris and I have been really trying to build down the electrical, the mechanical, the site plan, what we partnered with to try to remove costs. When we think about the lighting, initially there were conversations beyond just a photometric study for some of the lighting. So now that we have that, and Dwayne and his team have been successful with lighting grant, you know, versus a full-on lighting purchase, one of the things we've discussed with Harbor Town is instead of that, you know, $200,000 in expenses for that, to reduce that scope, get the engineering plan that we can use as we start doing those lighting improvements, and maybe just work on a handful of prototypes that we can get here before that large project starts. So,
And we had 500,000 for the second story watch area that will go away.
yes, we have whittled down the park office rehab to a reasonable number for interior furniture and fixtures. We have really tried to reduce some of the scope on some of the things that the Barker House has shared. We've reduced some of the scope from the gazebo going away, as well as the lighting project. So those additional remaining dollars start to play into the capital stack for this.
And the gazebo, or was it amphitheater that opened up?
It was a gazebo. If you remember way back when the original overall master plan was put together with some conceptual items, one of the things we've done to alleviate a permanent amphitheater space was partnering with Main Street to purchase a mobile trailer to be able to set up anywhere along the waterfront or any location within Edenton to host an event versus one primary point. So that was a.
And I think one of the main criticisms of the gazebo was that it was going down there and it was gonna block Athens to that. It was gonna block the ability to put a tent up. All of a sudden, you couldn't have a tent at the Barker House anymore. I mean, it limited that scope.
Well, yeah, and we never approved the gazebo.
No, we didn't.
We pushed back mighty hard against that, and this would be a great replacement, a much better addition than a gazebo.
Was one of the proposed intended uses of the gazebo to provide a shaded spot for the weather for Albemarle Queen passengers and also trolley riders?
Yes.
And this is gonna have a front porch and benches where people can wait and can also wait inside.
Yes.
For either the trolley or Albemarle Queen, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That front porch will have an overhang.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll talk about a little more of that.
Yeah.
With some of the other folks who want to come up. So yesterday, Chris and I were in attendance for the Preservation Commission to move forward with a conceptual site design approval, which did pass. And so when we look at our new business items tonight, and we start to ask some of our local partners about their input as well as Chris beyond the site plan, we wanted council to see the full shared layout of what was asked yesterday. When we look at some of the amenities that are there, we'll continue to kind of whittle away what we may be able to find other funding for or things of that nature to help to provide contingencies, which was a big part of the conversation yesterday. We've had conversations with utility improvements that, for future use that Public Works can help provide versus a part of this project now, with it being a town asset. We really feel like we can shave some things off and really try to provide some cushion. I know that we've been working on the move. That's been a big piece of some of the discussion is getting numbers for that. I mean, this thing is by road that can get to Edenton, 18 miles. We're going back and forth on feasibility on which is the lowest option. So we haven't removed anything that we haven't been able to couple something else with to help get it to the finish line.
Okay. Chris, again, thank you very much for your presentation, and also thank you for your continued work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate that opportunity.
We next move to our committee meetings, and the committee meeting that has business before us tonight is the Utilities Committee, and tonight we are considering and are going to need action on the Economic Development Rider number 1, EDCR-1. And Corey, if you could update us on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be glad to. If you remember, the 27th of April, we introduced the Utilities Commission Economic Development Rider. We've been working over the last 5 months with our partners with Electricity to try to continue to explore options for some of our vacant spaces. And if you were to inventory and look at those spaces, most of those are larger locations. Think of 2 currently unoccupied downtown, as well as roughly 130,000 square feet of something that's only partially occupied. So one of the things we have used to add to our toolbox and is statutorily available for us as an economic development rider. This rider would be for any location in town. It would take effect July 1, and the location would have had to have formally been occupied and had been vacant for at least a period of 12 months or longer. And also, it would allow for a demand charge credit towards their utility bill, which is something we do now with our coincidental peak customers for peak shaving. For any locations that over a 12-month period would exceed during 4 months of energy use 250 kilowatts. So these are very large, very high energy locations. This would be a 10-year contract with the tenant or occupant. That would be a 5-year, 60-month kind of deflated balloon approach, where in year 1 there would be a demand credit only for 25% of the first 12 months, 20 the following 12, 15 the following 12, 10 the following 12, and finalizing up until month 60 with a 5% credit for demand only. This does not impact the energy charge. This would be for large demand. We do things currently similar to that with some of our coincidental peak and LP customers on adjusting rates where the overall cost is able to be scaled, energy use, non-coincidental peak and coincidental peak, but averages for total cost per kilowatt. And for us, we feel like this would be a great opportunity to align this with the new budget starting in July 1 to really hone in and put a target on these at least 3 sites we can think of that are in excess of 20,000 square feet.
Like shopping center?
Yes. Yes.
Corey, is this something that Electricity's has seen used across the state before? I mean, we're not ventured out into brand new territory, leading the pack and into the unknown.
This is something that is used with other municipalities that are part of the Electricity's brand. Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on it? Okay, action is required. At this time, I would entertain a motion and a second on the economic development rider. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor of passage of this economic development rider, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for your work on that, and make sure you thank Electricity for bringing that to our attention. Next, as Corey had mentioned earlier, our new business is the Harbortown Project Amendment, and at this time, we will need action at the end of the presentation. I'm going to hand it off to Corey Gooden and Dwayne Wilson to give us some more information on that amendment.
Okay, well, if you remember, on February 10th, 2026, the Edenton Town Council voted on approval for a preliminary list of local projects for the local waterfront improvements as part of the Harbortown grant opportunities. Since that time, we've reviewed these projects and the associated cost and savings. Harbortown is requesting to include a maritime center project. This would be included in the Colonial Park footprint and would incorporate the additional waterfront improvements beyond the current park office renovations. These would include an improved site design and layout for the redesigned parking lot, the traffic patterns, sidewalks, crosswalks, and a more efficient design of the parking spaces currently in place. The improvements would also include a new structure for the dockmaster's office, training and classroom space for local events, and a retreat/common area for day boaters and transient boaters. This building would also include outside covered seating for patrons and residents at Colonial Park, as well as boat storage for the sunfish and kayaks. The site plan was discussed in the presentation by Chris tonight and was also included in the agenda packet. This would be 100% funded through grant proceeds with Harbor Towns and is estimated to be upwards of $750,000 in total cost. Chris and I have really dove in since December on starting on these projects, and like I told him last Thursday, rubbing nickels together to really trend where we could. And we did have Chris Bean from EHC as well as Andrew Owndy here to talk about some of the construction, and we did also ask Joe Watt from the Mayor's Harbor Advisory to join us in case there were any discussions or any more in-depth questions. Chris and I can handle any of the technical questions from a preservation standpoint. Dwayne has his staff report and information that was presented yesterday to the EPC. So at this time, I welcome any of our local partners that we've gotten input on for this to share anything, and if we have any more kind of technical questions about the site itself, we've got the right people here tonight to help answer those.
I have a couple questions for Mr. Joe Watt. If you want to come up, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe, you're the head of the Harbor Town Board locally, correct?
Yes.
And who else is on that board with you?
Mr. Bud Powell, Jim Friends, Chess Chesson, Mark Fieser, and Herman Bond.
All right, and if you could, how does the board feel as a whole on this project and what's been put forth? And then any critiques that you heard from the board that you think we should consider?
Thank you, Councilman Sellers, for that question. You know, it was about 2 years ago when we actually formed this board, and the first task that you assigned us was to work with Harbor Towns to see what we could do with Harbor Towns to keep the $2 million that was in play, to make that, get access to that, but in a way that was to the benefit of our town, that would benefit the townspeople. And we reached out to several different groups to try to get a broad understanding of what the wants were. We worked with the Edenton Yacht Club, the Sailing School, the TDA, the Tourism Development Authority, Public Works of Edenton, the neighboring marinas down at Albemarle Plantation, worked with the downtown waterfront businesses, talked to many local boaters, transient boaters, and the Edenton Historic Commission. And we brought to you, after that initial assessment, a list of recommendations. If you remember the long list that we brought in. That list, I can remind you of some of the items on there. And what's great is we've talked about many of them tonight. At the top of the list were improvements for the breakwater, structurally and wave attenuation. I know that heard a couple people tonight, Mr. Hudson and the Commodore both mentioned that. And we just heard Mr. Morris talk about the structural improvements that are going on. So that has certainly been heard and addressed. Also was the need for improved lighting in Colonial Park. We heard about the light study, and in the February meeting there was an appropriation of funds for that lighting. So again, heard and addressed. Another significant request for improvements for day boating. And I just want to thank the council for the change in policy that we just announced recently. Significant change to our day boat usage policy in our inner harbor. And for anyone that's listening, it is now open for use. Please come use our harbor. It's first come, first served. If it's not reserved, please come and enjoy our waterfront. We're open for business. No reservations, no rentals required. Just don't stay overnight, unless you're a transient voter. But we're so glad that we got that changed, so we thank you for that. And we also discussed in the February meeting, trying to work this budget in a way that we have funds left over for our floating docks and lowering the finger piers. All things that were on our list. And then more specifically to the discussion topic tonight of the proposed building to the south of here. The infrastructure request, both from the harbor towns and from the community, for the addition of washer and dryer facilities for transient boaters, improvement to the shower facilities, and improvements to the public restrooms, all of which we heard Mr. Morris, I think, talk about tonight. The construction of an appropriate harbor master or dock master office, one that you can actually see the harbor from the office, was high on the list. A classroom for sailing classes and maritime historical artifacts, a storage for EMS supplies such as backboards and AED devices, a waiting area for passengers for harbor towns and for the Liberty and downtown trolley usage, both indoor and outdoor space, and covered storage for the sailing school's sunfish. I believe that this meets all of those requests as this proposal has been stated. Additionally, the proposal was for a net neutral parking impact, which I think we heard from Mr. Morris, that we're net neutral, or maybe he's going to squeeze one more in, which is great. And an improvement to the traffic flow for the parking that we do have. Because this, as we know, this parking is not very usable. So, to answer your question, Mr. Sellers, I believe that the council has done an incredible job at addressing the needs and wants of the community as brought to you from our group. And I want to thank you on behalf of that group and everyone that provided you input, that you did not only solicit the input, but then you acted on it. So we very much appreciate that. Any other questions?
Thank you, Joe.
I have one personal comment, if I can add. I didn't talk in my 3 minutes, but I would just make a personal comment, if I may. You know, I'm new here, and one of the things that was very attractive when I came here was the waterfront. And I appreciate that the waterfront wasn't always the way it was. It took some bold and some great stewardship and leadership by previous councils and yourselves to get this to where it is now. And I'm sure that if there was Facebook in 1950 whatever, when the Penelope Barker house was moved, you would have seen lots of comments about view blocking and parking and cost. Likewise, when the lighthouse was moved, I'm sure you would have heard the same thing. But
we did hear that. At least some of it.
But those two things are iconic. They make the waterfront. And as it's been stated so wonderfully by so many people before, continue the work you do, and we appreciate the work that you do and all the other organizations as well. So I encourage your moving forward on this personally as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, I just wanted to make myself available for, first off, any questions you might have that were similar or maybe the same as some of those that were brought up yesterday at the Preservation Commission meeting about the structure, the viability of the structure as it sits to be able to be restored and or moved. And then also any maybe technical questions about what we know about the structure and how it may sit within that footprint that what we've heard about all night. Do you have any questions about that? I'm sure you do.
What is the footprint? Because it's a small, relatively small, it's a very impressive building, but it's not huge.
It is. I actually was just pulling up the drawings for the Barker House. They're available on NC State's website. The Barker House, to give you perspective, is 50 feet wide. The physical building itself, not the chimneys. The Martinique House is 34 feet wide, not including those chimneys as well. The Barker House as well has only a 6'4" or so second stories. It's a much shorter second story, so the elevation, side elevation, from the bottom sill to the top peak is about 22 feet. It's going to have a 4-foot foundation under it. To give perspective again, the Barker House Set's about 35 feet roughly. I didn't have that exact measurement, but I had the floors to roughly sort of add up, and then there's some discrepancy there, so with the roof. So you're looking at about a 34 to 35 foot structure from the side with the Barker House. In comparison, this building will be about 10 foot shorter.
How many rooms will be on that first floor?
So the Barker House's arrangement, the original arrangement is what you actually see now from the 18th century. It's a center hall. It's about 6 feet wide. There's a door to the right and the left about halfway down that center hall. There's a small room to the right, which would make a great office for the harbor master, and it'll have a fireplace. And then on the left, there's a larger 17 by about 14.5 foot room. And then there'll be an open room all the way across the back that'll be about 34 by 10. With windows out to the park, and then the handicapped accessibility, I know that was an issue brought up tonight by a gentleman in the comment section. That we have integrated designed the use of a lift to try to keep the footprint down again, because if you have a 4 foot elevation, inch per foot, excuse me, run for a handicap ramp would be required. So we're looking at options for a ramp, a lift integrated within the building. So you'd open a door and there'd be a handicap lift that would get you up to 4 foot to the first floor, and a walk-in door accessible as well. Those would be on the north side of the building facing this structure here. So as soon as you pull in, there'll be handicap parking with the accessibility on the building itself. And that handicap accessibility will allow you to get to the front porch as well.
I understand we're in the early stages of thinking through the move, but how do you see that planning out? How do you see that going? We
have a couple of options, actually. There's the option of, that's kind of been proposed all along, and that is from a barge perspective. And this building can go either route. It can go either overland or over water. It's going to come down to which one is most cost effective, obviously. So we actually have a scheduled meeting with the move on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock in Rocky Hop. So yeah, we're gonna leave from there Thursday, hopefully knowing whether we're gonna take a right or a left out the driveway. Which
with that particular option, are you looking at a crane coming down here to actually lift?
Chris, you spoke with them. They were.
No, I'm not sure there's a crane involved.
No.
Okay.
He would set up his ramp structure straight off the barge, come in here into the harbor here, and just his ramp would come almost straight in place.
Oh.
There's hydraulically operated dollies that can lower and raise the building.
Okay.
And so we're looking at the overland route. If he can get this building low enough to the pavement within a few inches when he needs to go under power lines, as many power lines as we can go under, and utility lines, the better, and obviously cost savings as well. So we're weighing those options. That's part of this final feasibility study as it goes now. The objective is to keep the structure intact. It was brought up yesterday, could we dismantle the structure and reassemble it here? The short answer to that is absolutely. I've actually dismantled a lot of structures and put them back together. Code compliancy gets involved heavily when you have to reconstruct these buildings that were built in the 18th century, which are obviously not to our codes, even though some of us feel like they're much better. So nonetheless, it does cost, it would cost exponentially more to disassemble it and reassemble it, and you also lose some of that historic fabric that we want to try to keep intact.
If approved, what's the start time or the timeline you're looking at to start and finish?
The timeline that we've discussed, the number one goal we have now is to get these contracts signed so that the money stays in Eden. And then after that, we'll work with the movers on their schedule, and the site prep would happen, I would say, a year and a half from start to finish is a practical approach, but that's something that would have to be timed out. We don't want to interrupt anything going on in downtown, so we obviously work around scheduling for downtown events and things like that, because there would be some interruption of traffic flow and things for a day while we move this thing in at a couple of mile an hour. So obviously that would have to be planned out, but yeah, you're looking at a window sometime.
And Andrew, there won't be any work done or any lay down areas prior to or during July 4th, right?
Absolutely.
July 4th is, would still look like that,
If
right?
you ask me, no. Not this July 4th, no, absolutely not. No, that would goes back to your question before, Councilman, that we would absolutely look at any calendar schedules, and from our perspective, we don't want any more people down there than we have to, and we don't want to interrupt anything going on if we move a structure into downtown. It'll be a spectacle, but it doesn't need to interrupt any events. absolutely not.
And it's my understanding you'll phase it, so you do the outside first.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of the structural repairs will be executed on the site now, at the north end of the county where it's sitting now. One, to help the structure during the move, obviously, but also anything that we can do there takes off our plate here, trying to work logistically downtown. It's much better option to do as much on the exterior there. Obviously, we would have to do some things, but yes, it would be phased, absolutely.
And given the footprint of the building, what degree of confidence do you have that we'll be able to remain parking neutral once everything's said and done?
If the surveyor's tape measure works right, I have 100% confidence in it. So I did not survey that, so I have to, that's my disclaimer, but I have measured the building. And if that building is scaled properly in that drawing, which it is, then absolutely it will fit. Another thing about the parking wasn't mentioned, it's really actually an advantage in the pattern of drive around this building. We want to incorporate the storage for the sunfish and the kayaks, as much storage as we can, under the rear of the building, which will be closed in with louvered vents. That's the idea. Chris Bean designed those for the Barker House over here, I believe. And we would incorporate something along the back that kind of mimics that precedent and allows us to put the storage of those boats underneath. And they will have access right off that drive, right at the back of the house, and it's to be a quick exchange. So it would be an easy in and out for them as well.
And you came up with the need for ventilation from talking to Stuart and the rest of the people.
Absolutely, yeah. They made it very clear they want these storage facilities vented underneath so they don't have to worry about mildew and water. If we do have a rain event or something and there is water, it gets back out. And obviously these buildings would have been heavily vented in the 18th century. And we have photographs of the building's original foundation, but there are also precedents for vents around town. So not to get too much in the weeds of something that the Preservation Commission would obviously approve because of the vista, but we would use historic precedents to incorporate ventilation under this building as well.
And you mentioned the Preservation Commission. I don't know if this question is directly posed to you or to Corey. In terms of what it's going to look like on the outside, there's still approvals that they would have to get from the Preservation Commission.
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of, I think the word yesterday was used, gap stops. And I think that's an appropriate approach, that everything that we would do would actually fall under their purview because it's a view from 360 degrees from the street. So they would have actually full discretion on this building if I'm right about their purview.
Well, and the other thing we're getting is a paved parking lot, crosswalks, like we've been trying to get everywhere else, and something we don't have to pay for.
Well,
people need to know what to pay for.
As a preservationist, you don't have to ask me if I'm in favor of this. Obviously, Sambo and I have talked about this building for a long time, ever since it was put out the end of the driveway. It's been on everybody's radar. So I think it's gotten a lot of attention from a lot of people over the years, and I think it's a very positive addition to the waterfront because it has a very good use, not just saving a building. I'll stack them up if y'all want to move them, but this one has a good purpose, and that's actually what makes it a good reason to put it where it is. Actually, multiple purposes.
Any more questions of Andrew? Andrew, thank you.
Thank you.
And we also have Judge Bean who addressed us earlier. If we have any questions of the historical preservation angle, he's here to answer any of those questions. I hear everybody shaking in the negative.
I think he made himself pretty clear on their
There is one thing I would like to add.
Please do.
If I could.
You may.
And I'm not going to expand really much on what Andrew had to say because I think he answered all your questions. But people have a real hard time with perspective, imagining what something is going to look like. You can see all this drawings and all those kinds of things, but what really would it be? You need to be aware that the entire first floor of Martin E and the second floor, which is the same size, has less square footage than this room. Now, if that gives you any perspective, it's about 4 feet longer than that wall and about this deep. So you're not talking about a great big building. Everybody's sort of been worried a little bit about the size and the blocking of view or competing with the Barker House. It absolutely does none of those things. So, if that helps in
Yeah, well, thank you.
getting an idea.
Thank you for that addition. Is there anybody else, President, that you feel might lend more perspective on this? And so at this time, we're gonna need, action on the site plan and just the general location that we've seen.
I'd like to make that motion.
Is there someone else that has a, you got an interest in seconding? Okay, we've got a motion by Councilman Dixon and a second by Councilman Bond to approve this site plan as presented and approve this amendment to our Harbor Towns project agreement that we had entered into earlier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Thank you, thank you. I know a lot of people have been very interested in this. I thank you for the attendance at yesterday's meeting before the Preservation Commission, and also thank you for your interest in the comments that you provided us earlier. At this time, we move on through our agenda, and it's time to hear from our town manager on his town manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. At our meeting on April 14th, there was a total of 5 public comments. 3 of these comments were regarding the relocation of the monument, and at this time, there is no action on this matter, and future follow-up will be discussed if needed. Mr. Carl, 219 East Queen Street, spoke regarding the concerns for the increases in tax appraisal. We want to thank you for these comments. The town staff are working extremely hard to present a budget that is realistic and reasonable when considering the proposed tax rate. We're doing all we can to minimize cost increases from the general fund expenses. We've been working on that budget since January. We've been working very closely with the tax office, and we're going to do everything we can to minimize that impact and where we are. Mr. Caskey, 1003 North Oakland, gave comments on the no penis protest. Mr. Caskey, thank you for your comments. During the items considered timely and important, Councilman Sellers shared a story about the bathrooms and them being locked here at Colonial Park. I did want to let everyone know these have been adjusted to 8 a.m. Councilman Miller thanked everybody for the preparations and the safety for the Boogie on Broad event. I did want to give out a big thanks to the Main Street staff and volunteers who were in partnership with the town employees for a great event. Thank you for these kind words, and we agree that the effort for this event was very well executed for all the parties, from all the parties involved. I did want to add one thing here that was not mentioned. I got this date yesterday on the NCDOT crosswalks. The funding has been approved for the crosswalks at Granville and Virginia Road, Broad Street and Virginia Road, as well as Queen at Twitty. These funds are released for design in July, and the construction funds should be released either in August or September. The Public Works Director does anticipate construction during the fall or winter of this year.
That's good
Thank
news.
you.
That's
Thank you,
all
Craig.
right. That's good.
Next we move to items considered timely and important. And Corey, that's wonderful news about the crosswalk. The ones that are at the major intersections of Virginia Road, Granville Street, and Broad Street, will those be ones that will be equipped with the buttons where you can push and will be given the opportunity to cross the street when the little man says you can cross the street?
Yes. And DOT did want to start with the ones with lighting, and I've been bugging them for 9 years, sort of one at Queen and Twitty, so we're ready to get those first few in there.
And Queen and Twitty is right near that curve leading to Dollar General, and we have a lot of our youth crossing there. I don't know if any of y'all have ever noticed that, and they cross there to go to Dollar General, so I'm glad we're doing that. So thank you for doing that, and no good deed goes unpunished. When can you start working on Broad Street?
What we'd like to do is identify the needs now that the school project is done and the paving and resurfaces is there. Identify any of the places that are high traffic and start with those first, and then work our way down CJ and Dwayne have been working on inventorying all of our sidewalks, all of our crosswalks, all of our ADA ramps, all of the locations without any of those amenities. And so we're gonna compile that list, get calls together for painting in certain locations to add those in. One thing to note, that I do want the board to be aware of, any of the locations that these crosswalks are added that are not at a signalized intersection, do require signage. So we have to be very mindful of the crosswalk signs and how many of those we would like placed along that DOT path. So I think it makes sense at the high school, in the shopping center that's there. Does that start to make sense when it's residential on both sides? Maybe those neighbors would like a crosswalk or would like to walk a bit north or south to get to one. So those would be some of the things that we have to consider. Do we want signs every 50 feet before every intersection or whatever that setback is for every location? Do they have to go a block south to get to one? So we need to weigh that. Does it make sense at the high school? Most definitely.
Well, I appreciate that, Corey. Before opening up to other council members, I would like to pass along a humorous anecdote that happened to me within the last week or so, but I received a concern that was voiced by the youngest resident that has ever voiced a concern to me. A 6-year-old asked when I was going to get the sidewalk fixed on King Street because she tripped and scarred up her knee a little bit. So I did tell her that I was going to get together with her and her parents so she could show me what tripped her up, and then I'll get back with Corey on that. But yeah, 6 years old, so that's a record. Any other items that you'd like to
I just want to
mention?
confirm, Corey, on May 26th, Dawson Tyler will be here to give a quarterly update on the Inn Hotel. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have been working with Dawson on this. Dawson and folks from Saga were supposed to be here in April. We were gone at one of those meetings. We've had presentations at the previous meeting at the end of April as well as this one. And we look at time. We've tried to really balance getting those partners in, that he's continued to keep us abreast on where things are, trying to keep us up to date. So each 2 week
That is
period
confirmed.
that we
He is coming.
Yeah, and things are still moving forward.
I can't
Yeah.
confirm it, but all I is one of them.
So the good news on that is every 2 weeks that we have, there's hopefully more information to share from work completed since the last meeting.
Councilman Bond?
Corey, question for Corey. Corey, I'm getting a lot of questions. I see a lot of natural gas lines ran into Edenton. People in my ward are wondering, are they ever gonna leave New York and come down our little country road?
We'll be glad to continue those conversations. We've been on to the point to let Piedmont know that any new easements or requests would be delayed until consideration is made for these locations.
So we're telling them, hold on, we're not gonna do anything until you address.
Dwayne and I will have a group that we've been working with on a LIHTC project that would be a new customer, that would be an upfit in the near future within that area that we would like to very much encourage to become a large natural gas customer to help our plea with Piedmont to come.
Is that the development that we had approved on Old Hertford Road?
We have a location there, but we still have a very preliminary project.
We rezoned it, I think. No, it wasn't.
Also in that area that we'll have some action on in June.
And Johnson Street, I'm getting complaints, even though we haven't had much rain, but I'm still getting complaints that water is running from the street under people's houses, and they are a little worried if we do get a heavy dose of water and it runs under their house, there's nowhere for it to go until it dries up. And this could cause rotting boards under their house and can also cause mildew and black mold.
I'll be glad to sit down with David and see what improvements have been made. I know that we've been in that area, since February for some of the sewer improvements. We've also inventoried that area for sidewalk improvements, and one of the things that comes with that is stormwater improvements. So I need to see what's slated. Our stormwater funding and repair is still an active part of our budget that we have been backing away on. And if that area needs to be pushed forward, particularly between the First and Second Street areas of Johnson Street, I do think there's some room for improvement there. We've been trying to finalize most of our mapping to understand what we got, and a part of that is it adequate or is it not? So that would be some of the work we can get started on fairly soon.
Can you get, within the next couple of months, a report on how the mapping is coming, and also allow us to work with you to prioritize areas of town that need improvements in the water drainage, much like we do with paving of our roads?
Wayne, CJ, y'all
What's that?
chime in any on that?
We'll have a comprehensive list at the next meeting of what we have got so far, and our utility cloud integration into that new map.
Because I'd like to see us talk about that, discuss it, and prioritize those needs, just like we do our paving needs.
One of the things we've been doing, think about what the Education Foundation offers for outreach, and I think about a lot of this being geared towards workforce development. The electric department, town hall, as well as public works, has chose to continue its internship programs, and CJ and Dwayne have been working with intern at town hall to help collect this data, to teach them about the mapping and surveying world, which is a very needed trait. Find someone to do that in this area other than Mr. Webb, and I would be surprised. So we've been trying to get that exposure, and we've got a good bit of data collected, really since the first of the year.
Corey, speaking about the natural gas, when we talked with the DOT on the bridge, that was brought to their attention, that'd be the perfect time to push Piedmont to maybe think about that area too, at Westover. Is that still on the?
We need to have that discussion. The last conversation I've had with Mr. Shook, who is the project manager for that, was around the lighting. I think I updated everyone at that time. We need to have a discussion with them about their engineering plans and see if they've determined boring locations for utilities, including some of ours that are there. And we did meet with the folks from Piedmont after that first meeting with DOT to see if their preferred vendors list did align with what NCDOT's options were, to make sure that that was someone they were familiar with the kind of uniqueness of what you need for a gas line to be bored versus a pressurized sewer line.
Mayor, I have something unrelated to that, but on my street there is one house that is in eyesore and in danger at this point, and it was one of the houses that our outside group identified as being a problem. Since Saturday, both neighbors of that house have approached me and asked me what's going on. They've been very patient and they've been very kind. However, from what they can tell, from what I can tell living on the street, there's been no headway. And I would love to give them, hey, here's where we are, here's where we stand, here's the plan. So I'm asking Corey, Blaine, what can I relay to them? What's going on? What's the plan?
And I've spoken to both neighbors as well recently. So that house is in it's a unique situation. It's in foreclosure. They're running into title issues at the tax office for clear title. I got minimum housing completed. However, given that it's in the historic district, I went through prevention of demolition by neglect. I've had the building inspectors up there within the last 2 to 3 weeks and taking pictures and have scheduled a hearing with her, which I received the registered mail back today of her signing it for, I think it's next Wednesday. That's gonna be the first step, and then it goes, a couple more steps, Preservation Commission, different things, based on the building inspector's, recommendation. I didn't wanna bring it to the board because it is an historic district, and trying to prevent demos, seeing what part can be saved and what part cannot be. So it is moving forward. As soon as I get, that meeting with her next week, if she shows up, she lives in, Georgia, so, whether or not she shows up, we'll head to the next, and, I already have Kent Pierce, the chief building inspector, heavily involved, and, if we can have something done within the next month or couple of months, we'll have more, ideas what we can do. It is gonna, be a cost to the town, because what we would have to do is either tear down a portion of it, renovate, and that is gonna be a significant cost. So that's what I've been trying to avoid this whole time, is, how much it would cost for renovations. Put a lien on it, given that it's not a clear title, there's no telling how long it will sit in that tax foreclosure status. Could be, we've seen some in town, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, so, that's what's worried me. So I'm hoping I could have better luck the other way, which I haven't, so that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Dwayne, and I've heard the same complaints from the same neighbors and even more neighbors. And this morning, as I was walking, I saw a vermin of some type that was literally this big.
It's a groundhog, we ground the deer.
Groundhog is huge. And I didn't run, I'm glad my wife didn't see it, because she would have run. But it was so big, I would be concerned if I had a small dog or a child walking by there, but please stay on that, because that, really in that part of town is the biggest complaint that I get, and I think the Councilman Sellers is here and also. Aaron?
I have one. So Corey, at the corner of Claire and Luke, I spoke to David about it yesterday. There are multiple potholes right there. Found that it's actually owned by the apartment complex. Is there some discussion that we can have with them about repairing it, because they're rather large and causing some damages?
What intersection is that?
Luke and Claire, that's right behind the hospital.
Yes, and your statement on ownership is correct. I've had discussions with the property owner about that, and what I think had happened, based on it having a center line map, is at some point during that development, it was supposed to be up to whatever town standard and then absorbed into our town streets.
Right.
However, I don't know the history of why that didn't happen. I had advised that group if they would like us to take that as a town street, and I'm assuming there has to still be a bond somewhere, if that's the way that worked. They would need to pave it before we would accept it. This is similar to what we see on the north side of Virginia Road entering Beechwood. Sewer utilities, water utilities have all been unbonded because they've met our specs. Those are now town assets. The street has a center line as mapped, but it's never been finalized. So we're not gonna take a bad road.
Yeah, how long has that discussion been underway? For a while?
Yeah, we talked at least a year. I think for us, we could help with some millings or some, just some patching. But as far as anything beyond that, it would be.
Yeah, if we can just get those potholes filled at the beginning, just right there as you turn, I think that would be great.
Okay, any more? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. I declare this meeting adjourned.